Welcome, dear friends, to the Military Reporter channel. As always, we continue to make a selection of what is happening on the front line. This footage was captured by a reconnaissance drone of Russian soldiers in the border area of Belgorod region. On the border with Krasnoyarsky district, soldiers of the 128th Independent Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 44th Army Corps met and foiled another attempt by Ukrainian armed forces to cross the state border. The footage shows a reconnaissance drone adjusting FPV drone strikes on Ukrainian soldiers who had crossed the border into the Russian Federation and were trying to move forward to consolidate their positions. However, something went wrong and the Ukrainian soldiers remained on the outskirts of the Russian border. Scouts of the 40th Independent Guards Marine Brigade destroyed a French 155mm wheeled self-propelled artillery unit Caesar, a vehicle of the crew and a tractor ATS-59G of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, which came to evacuate a hit self-propelled artillery unit. The footage was taken in the South Donetsk direction. Dear friends, if the video is interesting to you, support it with a like and subscribe to the channel to not miss new releases. And to be informed, click on the bell. Thank you for watching and we will continue. This footage seals the moment of the destruction of a 122mm mortar of the Ukrainian armed forces by an FPV drone of the Russian armed forces near Novolobovka in the Rubtsovsk direction. The katas show how the Russian armed forces launched a missile attack with FABs 1500 on the Kherson Ice Palace, where the Ukrainian armed forces were stationed. There is a suggestion that foreign mercenaries could also be stationed there. The Ukrainian command continues to use the local population as a human shield, deploying its combat forces in residential areas using civilian infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, sports centers, and shopping malls. In addition, the Russian army launched strikes on the AFU location in the Beroslavsky district. In the battles on the flank of Toretsk, a Russian fighter of the 242nd Regiment with the call sign Kashchi got close to an enemy fortification and threw a TM-62 mine into it. The mine explosion made the fortification no longer usable. A Russian drone dropped a grenade on a Ukrainian kamikaze drone carrying 4 anti-tank mines, which was driving at the positions of Russian soldiers. The calculations of the Grad MLRS of the 25th Combined Arms Army of the West Group destroyed a UAV takeoff point and Ukrainian armed forces manpower. Having received the coordinates of the target, the Russian soldiers quickly deployed the vehicle and fired a volley. The UAV's calculators controlled the destruction and transmitted the coordinates. The artillerymen also destroyed camouflaged firing positions, ammunition and fuel and lubricant depots of the enemy.
Да, по готовности 3 огонь и прилив.
Fighting in the Lipsy area, Ukrainian soldiers' armored vehicle Kozak was blown to pieces. During aerial patrolling of the vicinity of Lipsy settlement in Kharkiv region, the operator of the FPV drone of the 11 Guards, North, identified an armored vehicle of the Ukrainian armed forces waiting to be evacuated after a breakdown. In order to prevent its further use, the enemy inflicted a fire attack. The Russian UAV operator directed the drone inside the cabin and destroyed the enemy armored vehicle. Rosgvardia operators struck the Ukrainian Armed Forces American M2A2 Bradley BMPs in Sumy region using fiber-optic controlled FPV drones.
А ну, покажи плоскогубцы. Похожи.
The consequences of the excellent work of Russian drone pilots, another burned-out car of Ukrainian soldiers in the Kursk border area. In the video, a Ukrainian soldier complains that they cannot perform the task due to the drone strike FPVs.
Ебанула в капот, блядь. Вот так вот.
Russian soldiers successfully throw Kalabox is an independent development of the frontline soldiers, an explosive balloon to the enemy in the building. Fighting on the Belgorod front, the Russian army and aviation are mopping up the Demidovka area. The Russian Air Force and soldiers of the 34th Brigade are destroying Ukrainian armed forces infantry in the forests of the border area. Aviation is attacking enemy positions in the forest belts near the villages of Demidovka and Popovka with FAB-500 bombs. Objective control of the airstrikes is carried out by soldiers of the 34th Mountain Brigade. Rare footage, accurate arrival of a FAB-3000 at an Ukrainian armed forces position in a 9-story building near Kupiansk in Kharkiv Oblast. Tank crews of the 44th Army Corps North disrupted the Ukrainian armed forces' rotation in the Kharkiv direction. They destroyed the firing positions of machine gun crews by point-blank firing. The combat was conducted with fragmentation fugitive shells from a closed position. Targets were identified by UAVs and destroyed. Tanks provide round-the-clock support to motorized rifle and assault units, destroying fortifications and equipment, including foreign vehicles. How do you overcome anti-tank ditches in an offensive? North Group engineers have made equipment in their workshops to overcome enemy ditches. Footage of drone operators of the South Group destroying a Max Pro armored combat vehicle of the Azov Special Forces unit in the village of Sherbanovka and destroying an Ukrainian Armed Forces T-64 tank near the village of Fedorovka. UAV operators of the Mountain Motorized Rifle Brigade destroy heavy enemy copters. In the direction of the village of Demidovka, the enemy attempted to use the Ukrainian Armed Forces Baba Yaga UAV as a repeater for FPV and for remote mining of terrain. Iskander rips a portal to hell on the enemy positions. A Russian drone filmed the moment when Russian missileers struck the positions of Ukrainian soldiers using the Iskander-M ballistic missile. Russian soldiers utilized a cargo AR with an FPV drone strike. Footage from Serebryanskoye Lesnichestvo. Russian razvedchiki with the help of a drone with night vision detected a working calculation of the SPG-9 ganometer, promptly transmitted the coordinates to FPV operators, who immediately destroyed the target. Russian troops destroyed an armored vehicle Kozak of the Ukrainian armed forces on the Kupiansk direction with an FPV drone. UAV operators of the 64th Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 35th Combined Arms Army of Russia identified and destroyed a 100 mm MT-12 Rapra anti-tank gun in the village of Guliapol. Fighting near Kupiansk. Russian intelligence destroys NATO Su-AFU vehicles and infantry on the outskirts of the city. In Kharkiv region, Russian fighters track down and attack military equipment and Ukrainian armed forces fighters in buildings and forest belts. The footage shows the destruction of a British AS-90 SAU, a jeep and AFU infantry. Kharkiv direction. Blazing self-propelled artillery unit 2S1, Gvozdika, and 7 vehicles of the AFU. FPV account of the group antagonist is working. That's all, dear friends. Subscribe to the channel, put likes, and don't forget to click on the bell to not miss new episodes. Leave your comments. Your opinion is very important to us. See you soon.